the traitors, up with the stars. We will reel around the flag, boys and relay once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 71st edition of Uncut History here on Readout Production. How is everybody doing tonight? Oh, let's mute that intro. There we are. How is everybody doing tonight? If you're over watching on the Green website, because I got to speak vague about that now on the TubeView, apparently. If you're over on the Green website, I appreciate it. Appreciate you watching from over there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see your comments or not, so if you're watching, try to comment. Maybe I can see it for StreamYards, although the Green website is murky. There's like, if you go to the comments on StreamYards, it'll show you all destinations, it'll show you YouTube, and then it shows you the Green website, and the Green website is very faded. So I don't know if I'm wired in or not. In any case, welcome. How is everybody doing tonight? This is the month that is going to make or break my mental well-being, I believe. I am busy 24/7. Well, busy like 18/7. Yeah, because what? 18 6 hours sleep. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. What, 6-7 hours of sleep a day? Yeah. 18/7 is what I'm kind of operating on. If you're operating on 24/7, then you're just gonna perish. It's just not gonna go over well. So yeah, operating 18/7 this month. A lot of crazy stuff happening off screen, not relating to the channel. A lot of crazy stuff happening on screen, relating here to Readout Productions. So just got back from a big trip, probably the last major trip we're actually going to do this year. I'm hoping I can get back out to Gettysburg before the year's over. I was also hoping to do a trip down to the Carolinas. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. It's just a lot of stuff's happening. But we went down to Virginia. We stopped, the intention being to Bedford, Virginia, which is famous if you're familiar with World War II history, because the Bedford, Virginia suffered the highest casualties for any single American community during the invasion of Normandy. So we went down, visited the National D-Day Memorial, got to see the Bedford Boys Tribute Center, which we're actually going to talk about later on tonight. We did several other stops, though, more than we were anticipating in the Shenandoah Valley. We got to stop and see Thomas Stonewall Jackson's residence in Lexington, Virginia, as well as his grave. And we got to visit the Field of Lost Shoes on the New Market battlefield. So those are all subjects we're going to be covering in the coming weeks here on Readout Productions for Retracing History. But this is Uncut History, and it's been a while since we've done what I call the Preservation Shoutout. If you're a longtime viewer, you may be familiar with this gimmick I was using for a while on the live stream. If you're a new time viewer, welcome. What is the Preservation Shoutout? Well, it's totally no way did I ape this idea from a certain A Drink with Crazy, who every Wednesday goes live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss all sorts of independent projects. I totally did not ape that idea in any way. So what this is, every time I did a preservation shout out, I'll try to find a couple museums or historical preservation efforts being conducted that I feel deserves your attention and deserves your support. I wish I could go around and I wish I had a money tree and I could take dollars every day and throw to every historical preservation project. That's not the case. So the least I can do is shout out these projects, get their name out, and hopefully you guys can pass on the word to that rightful donor that can support them. And we're actually going to start off today by first sharing my screen so I can show you what we're going to talk about. Yes, let's do that. So we're going to head over and we're going to talk about the SS United States Conservancy. Now, the SS United States was the fastest ship in the world when it was built in the 1950s. And to my knowledge, it actually still holds the record for fastest ocean liner across the Atlantic Ocean. It was one of the most, I think it was one of, if not the largest ocean liner built in the United States of America. So this was all American built. We don't do those things anymore. We thought it'd be wiser to deprive us of internal infrastructure and be independent. We decided we didn't want to be independent anymore as a country and decided we're going to sell all of our infrastructure out to be produced by third parties. And that totally would have no irreversible consequences. Crap, I don't have beer tonight. So let's read a little about the SS United States. All right. America's flagship, the ship. The United States, the world's fastest ocean liner, isn't just a marvel technology. She's a living icon of American dream. She represents the power of freedom, hard work, common purpose, and innovation. Entirely made in America by over 3,000 pairs of tireless hands, and with products and components from every state of the nation, the United States was a global ambassador and the pinnacle of mid-century maritime design. She debuted in 1952 as the most powerful, modern, advanced passenger liner ever built, smashing the transatlantic speed record on her maiden voyage. But behind her graceful lines and patriotic flair, she was a national security asset, capable of being transformed into a state-of-the-art, top-secret military vessel. Did not know about that. The story of the SS United States is our story. It is a story of the nation's triumphant emergence after the trauma of World War II. It's also a story of the glory of old Hollywood and the advent of mid-century modern art and design. It's about people from small towns and big cities, setting out on journeys to distant shores. It's about immigrants crossing the sea and beginning new lives. And this take shows you some of the key features. Of course, this is a ship, so it needs a rudder and propellers. The King's Posts and booms, that's number 3. Lifeboats. The United States was widely considered the safest passenger ship ever built, in contrast to the unsinkable Titanic. She carried far more lifeboats and rafts than were required by law. The ship had 24 lifeboats plus her additional rafts and could hold 4,060 people, 1,000 more than the ship itself could hold, booked at 100% capacity. Life rafts, funnels. So you go here to the ship's history, breaks down all the components of it. Now, a little bit about its current situation. There's a lot of comparison with the Titanic. I wonder why. Why we compared it to? I guess it's because the Titanic's the most famous ocean liner. It's like how when we say, when we talk about airships, everybody thinks of the Hindenburg, and it's like there was a whole fleet of Zeppelins, and the Zeppelin's just one form of a rigid airship. We have many different types of airships we used in the early 20th century, but Hindenburg. That's the one we remember. Okay, same with the Titanic. Now we want to talk about the Olympic that served through the First World War and served, I think, right through the 1930s. I don't think it served in World War II. No, we're gonna talk about the Titanic. So yeah, there's a breakdown to show it's longer than the Titanic. It's wider. It has more gross registered tons, more decks, more everything. Because it's America, and we got more of everything than the United Kingdom, including many more problems. So going down through. Lately, the USS, geez, this is not a warship. The SS United States saw service for the 50s and 1960s, but really it came out at the very end of the age of the ocean liner. The age of the ocean liner effectively was dying once we got into World War II. That really only extended its lifetime because we needed a transport ship to send soldiers across the Atlantic and in the Pacific Ocean as well. And then after World War II, there was definitely the novelty on going on an ocean liner, but it really didn't hold around a lot. The Andrea Doria didn't help problems. The Italian ocean liner that sunk in the 50s, that didn't really help the ocean liner's credibility. And a lot of them got laid up or scrapped by the 1960s. Now, as you can see, the SS United States is not a warship readout. The SS United States got laid up, but it's still surviving, though it's becoming quite the rusting hulk. And it's been in Philadelphia for quite a number of years and just been kind of sitting and rusting. And she had a sister ship, the SS America. About the SS America. Has anybody ever seen a photograph of the SS America before? Let me go and show you the SS America. The SS America ain't around anymore. There's a reason for it. All right. Yeah, the SS America, she ended up getting sold, I think, for scrapped, and then she floated around a little bit. It says here on the Wikipedia, apparently she was going to be converted as a prison ship. Jesus. And then, well, during a during its towing, it actually got washed ashore and broke in two parts, and then no longer could really be used. And this is what became of it. No, that's the SS United States. Jesus Christ. Are you sharing the image now? Share this instead. There we are. So yeah, this is the SS America, the older sister of the SS United States. Yeah, it broke ground in 1995, and it kind of just was for briefly, basically a landmark, just sitting on the coastline. Eventually, the stern washed away, but the front portion just stood there till the mid 2000s when it too decayed, and it was heavily photographed. I remember reading a book in my elementary school library because I was the only person in my elementary school that went to the nonfiction section in our library. I don't even know why we had a nonfiction section other than it was a public school. Anyways, you would get this ship like or was it Time magazine or something like that about shipwrecks, and this was on the cover. The decaying hulk of the SS America. So yeah, it didn't end too well. It fell in. It's not there anymore. So, but that's a story for another day. This is the ma'am. Why are you not sharing? Jeez. So yeah, this is the SS United States. So it's been stuck in port in Philadelphia since the 60s, and it's been decaying. And lately, there's been some situations where, if I got it correctly, the SS United States basically it's been given its lease, it's going up. Basically, it's been given its notice of eviction. I think it's by the end of the year. If the Conservancy or something can't secure a certain amount of funds, that basically it's going to get cut up for scrap. Would be a real shame because there's not too many ocean liners left in the United States of America, let alone any of the world. And I think the plan, what the Conservancy has been wanting to do, the Conservancy has been around since 2011. They've been trying to at least stabilize the ship in port. The plan looks like they want to do something similar to what the Queen Mary's like out in California. Let's read a little bit about the Conservancy's plan. Over the last decade, the Conservancy was worked tirelessly to not only keep the ship safely afloat, but save the vessel through a bold redevelopment plan that would see the United States revitalized as a stationary mixed-use destination. The Conservancy has met with dozens of interested parties and explored locations in a number of major ports. Developing the SS United States is perhaps the most complex project of its kind ever attempted. The ship's rebirth will create an instant destination that will attract visitors the world over to her storied decks. Apparently, in 2018, the Conservancy entered an exclusive option agreement with RXR, a prominent New York-based real estate development firm, to help redevelop it. 75 commercial real estate properties are managed by them. Got a transformative plan. So these are the folks that redeveloped Pier 57 and TWA Flight Center, Rockefeller Center. So yeah, reading here. So this is their end goal. I presume they're trying to turn it into part museum, part, restaurant, like bar atmosphere, hotel, something like that. I think that's the end up plan. So will they do it? Only time can really tell us. It would be a major undertaking to get this right now it's stabilized, but barely, but really to get it to a point where you can actually use it. So here's how you can help save the America's flagship. After a lengthy legal dispute, U.S. District Court in Philadelphia ruled on June 14th that the United States must vacate the berth at Pier 82 she has occupied for decades by September 12th, 2024. In a ruling, Senior Judge Anita Brody determined that the ship's landlord, Penn Warehousing, could not double dockage fees without a notice to force the ship from her pier, but the court order established a 90-day deadline to move the 1,000-foot-long ship to a new home. And there is the link to lease cover for the dockage fees, shipboard surveys, and all the other stuff to kind of keep it in port for the time being until the redevelopment could occur. So we will drop the link for the SS United States Conservancy. That's going in the chat right now. Yep, there it is there. See, it's there. All right. Now, moving on forward, we're going to talk a little bit here about the American Miracle. No, not the Miracle on Ice. Not American Miracle. But first, Wata.
I feel I was denied critical, need to know information.
All right, so this kind of just came across my hate book feed last night. Kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole, was discussing it with a few friends, and I decided we'll throw it into the preservation shout out. The American Miracle is a movie that's in the works. It is straightforward. It's a Christian historical film. We're going to dive a little bit into what this is all about. About the film. Coming to cinemas nationwide in 2025 from Heroic Pictures, The American Miracle, Our Nation is No Accident, will take its audiences on a journey through some of the most significant events in America's birth and rise to prosperity and power. Inspired by New York Times bestselling author Michael Medved's book of the same name, this exciting, entertaining, and edifying motion picture experience is being created in anticipation of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. The history of the American experiment is a fabric woven in countless instances of improbable, unimaginable success, whether it is the supernatural protection that surrounded George Washington, the mysterious weather conditions that favored the movements of the Continental Army, or the unique long-standing success of a revolution unlike any other in recorded history. It is difficult, nearly impossible, to explain the outcome of any of these, and so many more events like them, without allowing for divine intervention. In his first inaugural speech, President George Washington described it as the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men. With a large cast and filmed on location across the country and the United Kingdom, The American Miracle stars Pat Boone, Kevin Sorbo, Nicole C. Mullen, Cameron Arnett, and James Arnold Taylor, along with authors and scholars Joseph Ellis, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert P. George, Akil Reed Amar, Lord Andrews Roberts, and Jana Novak, among many others. Now, no disrespect, but you probably notice in my tinge, I'm very, very, have much reservations toward this project. There have been slews of historical films that were made by very small production teams with an intention of using an historical event to kind of be an allegory for biblical lessons. I have no necessary problems with trying to connect religion with historical events. If there's like, hey, I noticed some similarities here. There's some life lessons we can gain from it. I have no problem with that. The problem is it never fails that these religious films, instead of trying to be a subtle allegory, they just come right out and go, Jesus, 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 it's all Jesus. And it's like, yeah, but, these were human beings with their own autonomy in a different time. Not, I'm all for going to see The Chosen by Jesus Christ. From what I've heard about The Chosen, that I believe, Angel Studios did The Chosen, or at least they released it. I've heard great things about that, and I even still one of these days need to sit down and watch it. I've heard great things on it, but you can't take a man from one time period and then just force feed his whole message of life into another. I'm just saying that. It's fine to have an allegory and say there's subtleties. I have no problem with that. I think a lot of good can come out from using religious lessons, and especially if they line up with an historical event. But don't warp the history to fit your narrative. That's not good. I don't like that happening on any accounts. I never like it when you warp a historical event to fit some narrative. It's blasphemy, in my opinion. And especially with the American Revolution, there's been a slew lately of massive religious historical films about George Washington and the Revolution that nobody hears about. and the few I've watched, they're very rough to sit through. Either the production's not there, or the screenplay was not properly written. except it being for a propaganda piece. So I'm very open. I have grave reservations when it comes to uh, small time studios that are going in with a direct. They're going in with major religious interests involved with a historical event. Rip me apart in the chat. Anyways, so I'm very skeptical about this, but then I started going through some of the images. So see, it's gonna get good. I'm gonna be happy now. So let's go back over to the American Miracle. There we are. So they got a cast here. I must be honest, most of really the only name I really recognize in all of that, including the scholars, was Richard Dreyfuss, who has a great narrator voice. So there's Michael Medved. I don't truthfully recognize his name. It says here he honors with graduate at Yale, and a political honors an honors graduate of Yale. Okay, Hollywood screenwriter, best contributors. Pat Boone. He's listed for an older interpretation of Thomas Jefferson. It's going to go down through here. Because what I can figure out, the crux of this movie, or really it's going to be more of a docudrama, because there's going to be a lot of scholars, or what I like to call the talking heads, that are superimposed over the events, is really to kind of cover through key moments throughout the American Revolution and kind of that are, I guess you could say, are very strange occurrences, nice coincidences, or was it divine providence intervening? And you know what? Even George Washington himself is publicly pretty quiet on his religion. I mean, we know that he's attached a bit to the Church of England, which eventually that'll spin off into the Episcopal Church of the United States of America. For many years, though, there's a separate thing known as the Anglican Church, or the Church of England, in the British colonies during the Revolution. That's what Washington was attached to, the Anglican faith. We know about that, but he's pretty modest in his descriptions of religion. He doesn't really use the term God or anything. He really just says providence. So he's pretty vague about a higher power. So he definitely reflects on the fact that, yeah, I went for a lot of hair-raising experience. I suppose the divine providence was sparing me. And it is true that he was never wounded in battle. And there's one too many events where I can't figure out why he wasn't wounded in battle, other than sheer dumb luck. So there is definitely stuff you can work with here of events where it's a roll of the dice what's about to happen. It is incredible the way it turned out, because there are so many ways that this lines up in a multiverse where Washington's dead, or this person's dying, or this is a catastrophe. There's so much that lines up in it, especially one of the most famous events of the Revolution is after we got our butts whooped during the Battle of Long Island. We got to evacuate Long Island, evacuate the whole area. They decide to move under cover of darkness, and a fog rolls in. Like out of nowhere, a fog rolls in to cover the retreat of the Continental Army, and the British don't really know what's happening till well into daylight once the fog starts subsiding. And it's one of them. That was peculiar. Or you also have, when you get to the War of 1812, a tornado literally saved Washington, D.C. from British hands, because a tornado touched down in Washington, D.C. and just wrecked their party of burning D.C. I know it's the War of 1812. The War of 1812 is the Mad Libs of American history. So, the American Miracle, they got a solid cast. I don't recognize most names, but I will say they don't look bad dressed. And let's look a bit at the sizzle reel. So they got a very small reel to kind of show us what we're getting into. I'm going to play heroic pictures. This is really just to show you story film. They're saying most of the principal photography is finished off. They're pretty gunning for a 2025 release. It's high quality footage, and what also interests me, you might notice there a shot of Mount Vernon. That's French and Indian War, so we're not just doing American Revolution. We're also covering a lot of aspects of the French and Indian War, which is why I'm getting really interested. And then the rest of it is our scholars are going to speak. The few clips we get in there, they're very high quality. So whoever they got with their cinematographer or director of photography, they know what they're filming, even if this is on a limited budget. Then I started seeing images of some of the set pieces. So they've been filming at historic sites, which is then really winning me over and getting me really interested, because I'm always big on, if you can film at the actual location, do it. Spend whatever money you need to film there. I mean, the movie Gettysburg speaks for itself, being filmed either on the battlefield or in the surrounding Adams County countryside. To my knowledge, they did film for the American Miracle at the Washington Crossing State Park, where the Delaware River crossing occurred Christmas night, 1776. They also, as you saw in the sizzle reel, they filmed at Mount Vernon, and they are apparently filming in the United Kingdom. I'm wondering what scenes why they needed to go to the UK to film. I'm very interested. So, though I'm very skeptical, just because I've been burned so many times with small independent historical films touting a religious spin on these events, it's clearly they're doing their homework. And this is not a very hastily put together project. There's been considerable time and effort planning this, if you're coordinating shooting at multiple historic sites. So that's definitely making me more open-minded to this American Miracle. Let's see what else we can see. Go to the store. Go over to the store. You can buy the book. Buy the book combo. Buy the other books. So, yeah. So, though I probably have upset many people due to my horrible coverage of theology, I'm rubbish when it comes to gingerly handling theology. The American Miracle, it definitely has me interested. And I've seen some additional images that are not on the main website, but on their Facebook page, that really are winning me over. Like, at least when it came to what I could identify as French and Indian War Virginia regimental coats, regimental uniforms, it's fitting the mark, which so many production teams have failed. Which brings me up something else. It has nothing to do with the American Miracle. By the way, before we depart, let me post. All right. I'm posting the American Miracles link is in the chat. So the American Miracle definitely has my interest. What does not is Fox's new miniseries about George Washington. Oh, holy crap. Where do I begin with this? So you may have seen advertisements that Fox did a 4-part miniseries, a docudrama of George Washington, the French-Indian War. And I do believe they have an intention to do a repeat next year about his time in the Revolutionary War. And I've actually talked with a couple of the scholars who are the talking heads for this. And they went, I think they filmed it in Montana where they did all this, or Wyoming or something like that. So it was filmed not where the French and Indian War occurred, polar opposite. French and Indian War, at least for Washington's part, occurred in the Appalachian Mountains. They filmed near the Rockies. So there's your first problem, because the Rockies and the Appalachians are not the same thing. The Rockies are tall, intimidating, sheer, almost cliffs, some of the Rockies are. The Appalachians sometimes can be more of a jungle or a swamp than a true mountain. Their problem is not their height, necessarily the massive entanglement of trees and forests. So you're already in the wrong topography. Every freaking guy in this miniseries, that's with the British, is in the same freaking uniform. They are in what I can only describe as the 48-foot regimental with like yellow facings. They're all, and it's not even like French and Indian War. It's Rev War cut. Like the trim is different length. It's for the Rev War. So they're wearing the wrong time period red coat. And most of the guys, including Washington, should not be wearing this type of uniform. And it just gets worse from there. That's all I'll say. It's good. Then are we back? I don't know why I'm getting an unstable signal. I guess because I'm berating Fox. I guess that's the problem. So yeah, don't watch the Fox miniseries. No disrespect to Kelsey Grammer, who's a great narrator. It was a great choice to host a show like that. The visuals they're giving them talking heads to talk over, deplorable. Probably, actually, I think it's worse than the History Channel, who was it 2020 when they released their docudrama on Washington with the British tricorn caps that were like the size of freaking boats. They're the size of ships of line. It's bad. Very bad. So, with all that said, the American Miracle, from what I'm seeing in the photographs, they have better production quality than most of your big name mainstream outlets do when handling Washington and handling the Revolutionary War. All right. With that being said, let's see what else we got on the docket. Make sure I'm live. All right. So, final thing we're going to shout out here tonight is actually tying into the trip we've had today. And that, of course, or today. Wow. Wish it was on the trip today. I've been busy, very busy. Trip last week I took with a humble collector, so you'll be seeing several retracing histories coming out in the future relating to this. But we went down to Bedford, Virginia, Bedford boys. It was 20, initially 19, but an additional one was killed the next day. 20 men from Bedford, Virginia were killed due to the June 6, 1944 beach landings, and then a few more would die in the weeks as the Allied forces got deeper into northern France. So, we went down because we wanted to pay our respects at the National D-Day Memorial. And I'm uncertain if I mentioned this when we did our D-Day edition of Uncut History. Of course, there's the National D-Day Memorial. We did see that. There is also another museum, and this is only recently opened up around 2019, known as the Bedford Boys Tribute Center. So let me go pull that up. The Bedford Boys Tribute Center. Here we are. Green's Drugstore, Bedford, Virginia. So I apologize if I'm going to repeat some things from the D-Day Uncut stream, but this place deserves a shout out. So the Bedford Boys Tribute Center was set up in 2019. It was in development for many more years. We'll set up with local residents of Bedford, Virginia, who wanted a place where the Bedford boys can be honored and people can be educated on each of their stories. The main exhibits are personal effects that have been donated or on loan from family members relating to the Bedford boys to the Tribute Center. I don't think the Tribute Center owns anything. Basically, upfront told us that basically everything you see is not owned by us. We don't claim any of the artifacts. This has all been gifted or loaned to us by generous family members who want their loved ones' stories told. And the reason this has not come around sooner is that even up to over 70 years after D-Day, the impact it had on the community was so harsh and so severe that there are still people around that do remember World War II. I think there was still one Bedford boy surviving, and they just did not want to make them have to relive those memories, the hardships that the community had suffered during World War II. So it wasn't until the last Bedford boy passed, and I believe that was in 2016, that the community greenlit the idea for a museum to honor them, and that there would be all this information displayed throughout the town. They just didn't want those harsh memories to be around for those that lived through them. So recent development. Main exhibit area, as I mentioned, is all their personal effects. When you go inside too, you also go into another room which has a lot of miscellaneous commemorations. It's not that it's in a bad way. One room is devoted strictly to the Bedford boys. The other room is more a general commemoration of World War II, that loved ones have put effects even if they weren't tied to this particular event. You start your experience off in the museum. They give you a very in-depth orientation film by, I think, essentially the curator of the museum. And he gets to go through each of the Bedford boys' history, their background, what they meant to their loved ones, what were their hobbies before they went off to war. And then once you're done with the orientation film, a guide that's available will take you over and answer any questions you may have. The good news for us was when we got to visit, we were the only people there, which is very unfortunate for the Tribute Center. I want more people to go see that. But I won't deny, I really enjoy having a museum all by myself where I can just ask the guide any question that I want. That's like my dream come true. It's a very small floor space of a museum, but there's so much history packed into these display cases with all these personal effects. and you have to pick the brains of the guides, because you can start, you can walk through. I'll be straightforward. If you're not really into World War II, you'll probably be in and out of the museum in a half hour. But if you're caring about World War II history, or simply have an interest in the stories of these men who lost their lives for trying to secure freedom for then France, but ultimately for all of the world, you gotta talk to the guys. We spent well over 2 hours. We actually spent more time on our trip at the Bedford Boys Tribute Center than we did at the National D-Day Memorials. Let that set in. Granted, myself and Humble Collector are big time history buffs, so we'll soak up any and all information, and the more local the historical information, the more invested I usually am. That's where the real history is, the real stories, the stuff that people consider mundane. So I highly recommend that you go see this museum if you're ever near Bedford, Virginia. If you're going to go see the National D-Day Memorial, you must also go see the Bedford Boys Tribute Center. The reason it's located in what they call Green's Drug Store is because Green's Drug Store was really elite, and that's just, again, the guys were fantastic. The guides got it to us that Green's Drug Store was the beating heart of Bedford, Virginia during World War II. It was, of course, a pharmacy. There was a grocery section. There was a soda fountain. There was a Western Union telegram office. Everything you needed was in this one storefront where the Tribute Center now resides. And well, it was there on July 17th, 1944, that the first of what will also be over 20 telegrams would come into that office telling Bedford, Virginia what they had lost. And it's one of those, more haunting words where the telegram operator, when she got in there that morning, message down to the nearest telegram office, which was in Roanoke, Virginia, to which they respond, "Good morning, Bedford. We have casualties." And well, it never stopped that day. It just there, and they actually have the original telegram machine. I think her name was Elizabeth Teese. She was a telegram operator that she used that day to splice together all of these casualty reports. And they estimate that the Bedford Boys, those that were killed from Bedford, Virginia on June 6th, most of them died within 9 minutes. They were all in the first wave. So it took about a month before the censors would allow this information to get out. But in July, that's when it came out. And when it came out, it hit the community hard. And you can feel that when you visit this tribute center. So that's why it's in Green's Drug Store, because this is where the community first learned about how much they had just lost on June 6, 1944. So yeah, if you ever have a chance, and if you're not going to have a chance to visit, I do recommend go through their website, read up on the information, read up on the history of the Bedford Boys. It is an impactful story. Really, really drives home why I am interested in history, because these stories do not deserve to be forgotten. We do not want to have to go through the hardships that men like the Bedford Boys had to go through. I admire their courage and their bravery, but it also makes us come fully understand what the price of freedom in a country like the United States really is. So it's one of them. We don't want to have to go through that again, but we should also have the awareness of this is what it costs to keep freedom. So yes, the link's in the chat now if you want to go over. Potentially, I recommend, if you can't visit, perhaps consider for tonight's over supporting a small donation. It's a very small operation. There was 2 guides here when we were there. One was the curator, the other was, oddly enough, I believe he was a volunteer who was volunteering for the weekend as a guide. He is active in the National Guard in Bedford, Virginia, which is the same company, the same outfit that the Bedford Boys were attached to. Company A, the 116th Infantry Regiment, 29th Infantry Division. Still around today, even though it basically got completely annihilated due to the D-Day invasion. So that was an interesting touch. So yeah. Well, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this one up a bit early. I know we're running about 40 minutes in. I'm whooped. I'm whooped. And I'm actually working right now on getting, not this week's, next week's Retracing History out, or at least a future Retracing History. Actually, before we wrap up, I can go show you. I don't think I've ever shown you. Did I ever show you guys what goes on behind the scenes? What does it look like when Readout Productions is editing a video? All right, let's go. All right. Well, first I got to open. So I don't use any high tech software, but if you have a recommendation for a free or very affordable editing software that will not kill my computer, that's also important. That's designed for a laptop. And I have a gaming laptop. It's not just some cheapy laptop. But if you have a free or very affordable editing software you would recommend to me, I would appreciate that in the comment section below. But for now, let me take you over and let me show you what it looks like. Yeah, here we are. So yeah, we're in Clipchamp right now. That's what I use. You can see some of the more recent videos I've been working on. How far back do I go? Oh, wow, we go back a little bit. So you can see here, I've been clipping out some more videos for gags during our live streams. So keep going. Oh, it keeps going. I may have to, fair warning, if you're using Clipchamp, be sure to, from time to time, clear out your projects, even after you're finished with them. You know, you've saved them elsewhere, because it'll accumulate. And even when you delete all of these projects, there's a glitch. Clipchamp won't, when you go to your storage, it'll still show that you have this X amount of gigabytes, even when you're like, but I delete all those projects. So what do you have to do when you want to clean out Clipchamp? Because this will take up a lot of storage on your computer. You have to uninstall Clipchamp and then reinstall it. Then it'll show, oh yeah, there's 0 gigabytes here. Yeah, I know that. All right, clear the projects out. So keep that in mind. If Wrangler's watching, that may be a tip you may want to use later, because I know he also edits with Clipchamp. So here we are. You can see all this stuff. Let's look at the Paoli one. So this was this past week's Retracing History, which I'd actually filmed the on-site stuff all the way back in March. I lost track of time. I'm sorry, guys. And there's still one more video left from this March trip to the Philadelphia area, and that's about Valley Forge. I have no idea when the Valley Forge Retracing History is coming out. We did free videos during that trip. We did Valley Forge, Paoli, and Brandywine. And I've been kind of uploading them in reverse. Brandywine came out in April. Paoli came out in August. Maybe Valley Forge will come out in November or something. I don't know. Any case, this really shows you down here the layers that went into the Paoli video, which actually wasn't too bad. The Brandywine video, which I don't have the project saved for anymore, was a monolith. I got a little bit better at doing animated maps. Learn how to save on layers, because of course the more layers you add in, the bigger and bulkier your video is going to be. So I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 layers going. I got 10 layers going on the Paoli video. So this is the guts of the brutal bayonet attack at Paoli. And then you can zoom in over here. You can see here, there's the intro. Then this is the animated map portion. So I probably should not be animating the maps on the same timeline as the regular video. If I was a smart man, I would do the maps first in a separate video file and then splice them in, because it would probably save on size. But I'm not a smart man. And sometimes I don't know what I'm actually going to do with the videos. I don't know what clips I want to use. I want to kind of play it out. So I'm not the best editor in the world. Currently, I usually edit from start to finish. So there you go. There's the animated map portion. Then we get into the title card. You can see up here at the very top, those are all of our title cards. That includes our our references when we use photographs. There's George Washington. And then we go over here. I think around here is where we get to the actual fighting. So you can see over here the video I used. Now, these videos from Paoli and Brandywine, they definitely have more layers than the average Retracing History, because there's not a lot of on-site speaking. I'm not doing as much. I did no walk and talk, actually, because we were having like 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts when we were out there. There was no way to record, even with a microphone, me speaking out there. Plus, it was just very cold. So we got out there, got all of our B-roll, as many angles of the battlefield we could, and then we edited in post, essentially. So I did a narration, a full script that I narrated. You can see it chunked up down here. You may even notice there's things I cut out of the original narration because I didn't like it. And then combined it all together with visuals that I can find royalty-free off of the internet, off of the Google. There's another animated map that's actually showing Wayne's withdrawal from the Great Valley, and then we wrap up down here. You can also see the music. So yeah, that's the guts of a retracing history. So when I say I'm editing retracing history, this is the mess. This is what it kind of looks like. Let me go back and I'll show you a more plainer one if I can find it. Oh, here's the Bradford house. Now this one had a lot of walk and talk. We spoke right in front of the museum building, from the stone house, Bradford's house. So you'll get to see. It said this is actually longer than the Paoli video, but you'll notice fewer layers. I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4. I think I actually got a fifth. I think I had 6 layers, but mainly 4. So this one, I don't think it's as big actually as the Paoli video in terms of file space. So there's our intro. I've been trying to do these more often where I do these zoom ins that I'm ripping from Google Earth. I think they're nice just to kind of establish where we are in the world. I started doing those Google Earth zoom ins. I think I started out with the Staple Bend Tunnel video back in March. A lot of things happen in March. A lot of things are happening in August. So there you can see a little bit more. So most of this was me speaking in front of a camera, looking at my ugly mug. I want to get more images inside the house. The staff were very friendly at the Bradford house. I want to go back for one of their after-hour events. Oddly enough, it was a Thursday and I had the day off, so I decided to go. They were very busy, which is great for them. Not good for me trying to get photographs because there was just people everywhere. So yeah, they had a really good day for visitation on a Thursday, no less. So what are the odds? So I only got a few interior shots. So I decided instead of speaking indoors, I went outside around the corner and did most of my talking. So yeah, so this is what a normal retracing history looks like, or at least what we're used to. In truth, if I can get back. I think we're going to stop sharing the screen now. In truth, I think in the future, what I'm going to do with retracing history, and I apologize if this will upset a few folks. When we do future retracing histories, I'm probably going to film the intro and I'm not going to go out with a script anymore. And the reason is I wrote a 10-page script for our Bedford trip. I didn't really use it. And a similar thing almost happened with the Irish Brigade video. But thankfully, I did stick with that script. I've noticed I have a very bad problem of trying to speak my thoughts at the historic site. I feel much better when I come back and can do the narration. I feel that I can shorten runtime. I can get things more concise, get my thoughts together. Because truly, I'm not done in the learning experience. Me producing the video should be the end of the learning experience, if that makes sense. I've got all my thoughts out. This is what I want to teach about. When I go to the historic site, that is part of the research. Because there's things I may read about and I'm not understanding or I'm misinterpreting. And it's only when I actually go to the site that I have a new sense of understanding of that historical event, which leads me tongue-tied as a result. So I'm like, well, I want to speak about this, but now I got to speak about this. And I can't think of what I wrote down a couple weeks ago and what I need to say now. So you may notice for several retracing histories, a new format, which will be opening intros on site. Don't worry, it does not mean I'm not going to go visit historic sites anymore. I'm still wanting to go out and see historic sites, but I may not speak as much on location. So I apologize if that's going to upset a few folks, but I think that's the best way. I think that's how I can make the best retracing histories, how I can make the best content for you guys to learn more about our shared paths. All right, we're at the 50-minute mark. That was 10 minutes of rambling. Hey, thank you guys for watching. That's a short stream tonight. I'm whooped. Work is whooping my butt. And I'm kind of a bit of a transitional phase involving occupations at the moment. And college is coming up as well. So a lot of things changing behind the scenes. I'm going to try my best to make content for Readout Productions, but there may be a few weeks where I may have to go quiet. So hopefully you understand why. Well, if you enjoyed this live stream, be sure to hit the like button down below before you depart. If you want to follow us on our future live streams, we go live 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays, typically. And then we usually air a new video on Saturdays around noon. So if you want to be the first notified, be sure to subscribe here to Readout Productions. And if you want to go the extra mile and support me, You can go to our Ko-fi page and links in the description below, where you can buy me a cup of coffee to wake me up in the morning. I am oh so going to need it the rest of this month. Well, thank you guys for visiting. We're going to play the outro. Play the outro, editor man. Yeah. So apparently all small-time YouTubers, we all share the same editor. I think me and Captain Garrett over at Swords and Starships podcast, and I'm pretty confident Wrangler. I think we all share the same editor. So, editor man. So thank you for watching.
We are springing to